You're welcome. I just spent the past 3 minutes singing NSYNC's God Must Have Spent a Little More Time on You, and I was harmonizing with myself, and you're welcome because I just didn't record it for your sake, I'm just looking out. But I know you do that too, right? It's been such a long time since I've done that. I just turn on a song that is a serious throwback and jam out, and actually sing no one's watching, but maybe Johnny is watching and I'm aware that he's watching, but I'm trying to act like he isn't watching, but I'm still trying to impress him and make him think I'm cool at the same time. I know you do the same thing. It feels so good though to just release, just not practice not caring, and the whole exercise is just to sing and not really care. It was fun. It was nice. For me, at least, anyway. What's up, friends? I am Hannah, your host. You know me. This is a podcast about my messy musings as a trained counselor, and the title of this podcast, I thought of it yesterday before I kind of fleshed out what exactly I wanted to say on here. I said this in conversation, preparing to die, and I was I want to name the next episode that, and I want to talk about that. So here we are. It's kind of morbid, I know, but actually it isn't. When you hear the episode, you'll see what I mean. It sounds that way, but I promise it's not. Okay, so I was watching Red Table Talk yesterday. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a really good show. It's a Facebook watch show, as in it's only played on Facebook. And it is with Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, her daughter, Willow Smith, and then their grandmother. So 3 generations. And they sit around an actual red table and talk about a lot of taboo topics. It's really good. So I was watching the fatherhood episode. So it was just Jada Pinkett and Will Smith, just the couple. And I was feeling super emotional about it. I made Johnny watch it too. You should watch it too. And I guess I felt really emotional, just seeing a dad talk about his kids, and not having kids of my own, because I don't, but my own relationship as a quote unquote kid to my parents, to my dad. And it kind of just brought up a lot of my own stuff. So it was just a lot of feelings at once. I felt kind of I don't know, felt kind of angry and kind of confused and kind of good. Sometimes it feels good to feel something big, And it just took me a bit of stumbling around and trying to find words towards what I was feeling to figure out what it was that was happening. And I managed to tease out some of it. And so I want to share with you what I came up with. For me, I was raised pretty religious, or I would say maybe more spiritual than religious. And I think my parents would agree with that. So I was raised Muslim, a certain sect, a Shia Ismaili Muslim. And a lot of my growing up was about being spiritual. My parents were spiritual in their own way, and not that we would or they would say, hey, I'm spiritual necessarily, but they were very kind of introspective and not so much about the rituals of the religion as much as it was about the intention and the thoughts, your thoughts, and meditating. And then this was a really powerful sort of theme that's kind of spread into other parts of my life. So it wasn't just about prayer or about setting aside time for that, but it was also about the way you live. like striving and achieving and not settling for mediocre. Really like big kind of lofty goals, and not big and lofty in like a physical sense, but big and lofty in like a spiritual sense, right? This is like your life is like this spiritual pursuit. And that's kind of where I got this like preparing to die, because essentially under this like spiritual umbrella, everything that you do is about like, how will this stack up in the end? Was your life worth it? You know, did you find that enlightenment? Did you find that meaning? And this isn't to say that like this is what my parents told me, right? Like, I mean, it wasn't. So much of what I learned is what I learned and picked up on my own and made my own meaning with. But this was like a really big thing that I took from it. You know, like the way that you live your life is about living your life in a way that you can die knowing that you had, it made meaning from it. You know, you had a good life that way. It was worth something, you know, more than just like physical and human level. And I don't think anything is necessarily wrong with that. But it was just so much this like lens that I would see things with, you know. And I would like make myself, or I would feel better about myself and kind of use it as like a judgment of like, hey, that person's not spiritual enough. Look how caught up they are in like buying clothes or, you know, their hair or their friends or school. And I cared about those things too, a lot actually. But in my head, I had defined myself as this like, no, I'm this spiritual person, right? I was like better than the non-spiritual. I had understood something on a more like fundamental, deeper level. And the flip side to that was also this like kind of a very like narrow experience of life, because, you know, on the one hand, you can wear this like spiritual badge, and then on the other hand, in order to do that, I had all these rules that I had picked up, like, you know, don't have too much fun because that's too material. So, you know, don't laugh too hard. Don't get too excited about things because it's just so superficial. But also, like, don't be too sad if things don't go your way, because that's not very trusting. And, you know, don't be too extreme in either direction, because you're just losing touch with what's really important. And not being too proud and not being too humble. And just staying grounded and not being so attached. And the thing is like, I was attached, you know, I mean, it's hard not to be attached as a kid, you know, even as an adult. Like, it's great to have fun and to laugh with your friends and have preferences. But when you have rules about what that really means, you know, you kind of feel like torn in yourself. You know, you have this like, I'm having this experience, but you kind of want to deny the experience because you want to be above it. I mean, it's a very like weird web. And it's not like, again, anybody told me these things. I'm not trying to like blame or distribute blame, but I just see this like these like colored glasses that I used to walk around with, you know, and like how restricting that was. Just like living in a way that you are preparing to die so that you can say that you lived this certain type of life, you know, like a deserving life or something. But then because of that, you're just not really living. And now I'm at this stage in my life where I am more than I have before pursuing living. Like, I am pursuing making money, and I am pursuing making this podcast, and I am pursuing having fun, and really like arguably, according to my past self, like superficial, physical, temporary things, right? These are in this moment. It is not about death. It is not about like preparing to die. It is about living right now and purely like physical pursuit. I want to go to the edge of these things. But all of these things are going to die with me. And I just was, I was finding it so hard and having so much internal judgment about these things, about the relationship that I have with like starting my own business so that I can make money, doing this podcast so that I can express myself, purely human desire here, right? Very indulgent, like just this, is it okay to be indulgent? Is this question that I've had over and over in my head that actually just looked like, no, it's not okay. No, it's not okay. You need to say meaning. You need to have meaning. It needs to be grand, And it's like, I didn't even see how much I was like imposing on myself. And now that I have seen it more, like I'm able to see the pressure that I used to have and the judgment kind of matrix that I used to follow that's starting to slip away, and I'm challenging it, and I'm actually like pursuing things that I had considered off limits before. It's like uncharted territory. Like I don't know if, the way that I stumbled on this like preparing to die concept was like, I don't feel like I'm listening to myself. I feel like I'm so swayed by what other people think, and I don't really even know how to, what it means to like listen to what I really want to do in this like creative pursuit of the podcast or of my life or anything. I mean, it was just such a vague thing. This feeling that I wanted to express, I want to do something. And yet every time I watch a video that is inspiring, I forget what I really want to do. And I think, oh, I like that feeling. That person's doing something better. I want to do it like that. And that's kind of what happened with the Red Table Talk. Like, I didn't just feel inspired. I felt like it kind of took me over a bit. I started to feel like, oh, whatever they're doing is right. And I put it into this like formula in my head, and, oh, I should be more like them, be more like that. And I've talked about this in other episodes, but then what came of that was just this realization that like, oh, like, the reason I'm struggling here is this is new. Like, this is new for me. And it isn't just new because like I've not done a podcast before. It's new on a much deeper, like more fundamental level. I haven't indulged this way in myself before. And this is a interesting relationship here, right? Because this is like, I haven't really been doing much as of late to promote the podcast. It is purely, or not purely, I mean, I think there's always a bit of a balance, but it is more an outlet for me because it's something I like to do than it is something that I want to build, to show. I have to like this more than I want it to be shared. At least for me, that relationship needs to come first, or I just wouldn't do it. It's harder for me to keep up. And so I really kind of felt this clarity of, that it's okay that I'm having a hard time listening to myself and like staying connected to myself week to week with this, because it is new for me. It is new to explore this part of myself in this particular like indulgent way. And it's new to let myself like care how I feel here. Actually like, oh, this does feel good. That when you choose to live in the moment and do something, it isn't really about like the later reward, right? If you're preparing to die, if your whole like psyche and approach is this rule book of what's right and what's good, the reward is down the road, right? The reward is when you die. But if you're about living, the reward is like right now. And the feedback is right now too. The feedback of like, is this something you want to do? Well, how does it feel? If it feels good, you keep doing it, right? There's so many like pieces here that I'm just unraveling as I'm speaking them out to you. But this was the main chunk that I wanted to bite off today. And I just think it's so cool, like, to realize this about myself. And I wonder how many of you can relate, that you just like have this like, some point in your life there was this decision that, you need to be this and this kind of person, and it's going to pay off later, right? It's either your image, or it looks good, or it's the right thing to do, the proper thing to do, versus like fully indulging in like having fun right now and feeling good right now and being just like intimately in touch with life now, with no regard for its like future payoff. And that doesn't mean you're being a jerk. It just means like this full contact. There isn't like too much fun or too much sad or, too much excitement or too much pride even, or too much anger. Like all of these rules kind of fall away. In one of my counseling classes, I remember the teacher said this at one point, one of the counseling teachers, that the painful thing in any of our experiences isn't that you're feeling something negative. It's that we feel the negative thing, and on top of that, we don't want to feel the negative thing, and there's a space between you and the feeling. But when you let that space go and make like full contact, like full human experience with life, you feel all of the pain and all of the happy and all of the fun and all of the laughing so hard your face gets into like the ugly laughing face, right? Or the ugly crying face. That full contact. There is this, and this is something that I'm sharing from my own experience too. There is this, like, as intense as that experience is, there is like a flow to it, because you just kind of let go of the resistance. So as painful as it might be, or as angry as you might be, or as big as the feeling might be, like, it's okay. It's actually really full because you are feeling it, that you're fully in touch with that feeling. And it's just like, it's full. It is so full. It's cool. Man, I said a lot of stuff today. I don't know. I kind of just went around and around. Around and around. But this was fun, man. Every week it's like I realize it feels like it's been a while. Like last Monday feels like ages ago. And I had said I was going to do 2 a week a few episodes back. I was doing like Monday and Thursday, and then I dipped back just to the Mondays. And I like this cadence, so I'm going to keep riding with it. But that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're doing good. Having good weeks. Good days. Yeah, and I will see you back here next Monday.